Okay, Yang Gang, this is our week 2 objective. I've been looking forward to making this video because I wanted to show support for Mike and also show you why it's important we support him in his race. When Andrew Yang dropped in February, I was down. I was kind of lost. I didn't know what else to do with my life because at that point I had been campaigning for Andrew every chance I got, every day, and doing anything I could to help him get recognition. And when he dropped, I didn't know what else to do with my life. And so I looked for other candidates that were running for Congress, even YangGang candidates. But I didn't see anyone that interested me because I was still reeling from that suspension. I was still kind of regrouping from that, and I didn't really have the motivation to really look for other candidates to support at that moment. It wasn't until I looked at Mike. I saw Mike's page, Mike Broihier. I looked at his website. I saw a lot of policies that I agreed with, but I just wasn't interested. One, because I was out of state, and two, nothing really caught my attention. It wasn't until he brought on UBI as a policy and brought on Scott Santens as a policy advisor. That really cemented my support for Mike and really cemented my interest in him. And I don't know how to explain it, but I was really fired up. I was really energized, ready to go. I don't know what that feeling is. It was a great feeling. I still have that feeling for him. I'm really energized and really supportive of Mike, and I think that he is the best one to win this election. So it wasn't, long after that I ended up supporting Mike. And at that point, I didn't really know much about the Kentucky race. I didn't know who was running, who was in this race. I saw a debate against the top 4 candidates, including Mike, and I was really shocked to see that the difference in level of variation between the different candidates, because there's Amy, there was Mike, there was Charles, and there was Jimmy. Now there was different varying levels. There was Amy was like the Republican light, Jimmy was like slightly more left but still kind of in that moderate area. Charles and Mike are kind of like far left, in that kind of they're farther left than Amy and Jimmy. So I was like, cool. I saw Mike, he was there, he did really well. A lot of people ended up liking him in that debate, and he was great. But it wasn't until I kind of after that debate that I started seeing the true nature of Amy McGrath's supporters. Now, if you don't know, Amy McGrath's supporters are out of state. Most of Amy's support is from out of state. She has very little in-state support in Kentucky. Now, the problem I have with Amy McGrath's supporters is that they are just liars. They are lying and manipulating the Kentucky election, and I have a real problem with that. You see, Amy McGrath supporters on Twitter and Facebook, all they do is lie to people. They manipulate the Kentucky Senate race, and they lie to people's faces. They tell people that Amy is the only candidate running for office and that she's the only one that's running in this race, when that's not true. There's dozens of other candidates running in this race that I can't even name, and they're all claiming that she's the only one in this race. This is a problem because these are the same people that are against Russian meddling in our 2016 election. They're the same ones that are against the Russians interfering in our elections, yet here they are interfering in the Kentucky elections for Senate. They are actively manipulating this election and forcing a candidate down Kentuckians' throat. They have no regard for the electional process. They have no regard for people's rights and their right to choose a candidate they like. They are sitting on Twitter and Facebook and in real life telling people that Amy is the only candidate running in this election, which simply isn't true. You have a lot of other people running, you have a lot of great people running, and they also are claiming that Amy is the best one to beat Mitch, which is a lie, because if history proves anything, it's that Amy cannot win. She lost in 2018 when she became a Democrat fight against Barr in the Kentucky election. She's a Republican light, moderate Democrat, and if you don't know, the people that ran before her in Kentucky against Mitch were moderate Republican lights who lost. So the fact is, they're claiming she can beat Mitch, she can win, that she's strong enough to beat Mitch, when history proves otherwise. Her race in 2018 was a failure. Her predecessors are failures, and the simple fact of the matter is Kentucky does not want moderate Republican lights. Not to mention, she is a flip-flopper and a pro-Trump Democrat. You wouldn't believe it, but most of the people in Kentucky do not like her. They prefer other candidates. Why? Because Amy flip-flops on her positions. She has said in 2019 that if given the chance, she would have voted to appoint Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court despite his rape allegations, and she also supported and acknowledged the rape allegations, but still said she would vote him into the Supreme Court. Months later, she says she would not have done that, and that she doesn't support Kavanaugh, and that he needs to be removed for his actions and his past allegations. So clearly there's flip-flopping in this situation. Now, to my point about her being a pro-Trump Democrat, well, she says Mitch McConnell isn't doing enough to pass Donald Trump's agenda in Congress. She says if she was elected, Donald Trump would have her support 100% of the time, and he would get 100% of his agenda passed in Congress, whatever that may be.
Who stops them along the way? Who stops the president from doing these things? Well, Mitch McConnell. And I think that that's really important, and that's going to be, my message, that the things that Kentuckians voted for Trump for are not being done. He's not able to get it done because of Senator McConnell.
So there's clearly evidence of flip-flopping and being a pro-Trump Democrat. But the problem is the people that support her are the ones who actively fight back against Trump and hate Trump. So why are they supporting a person who is a pro-Trump Democrat? That seems strange. And why are they lying to the people of Kentucky about who is running in this race? To me, it seems like there's something strange going on. I don't know what to put it. I don't know what to say about it other than the fact that they're meddling and they're lying and manipulating the Kentucky election. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Mike. And this is what we need to do to help Mike win. You see, there are 4 things we got to do. First, we got to help with donations for Mike. We need to donate as much money as possible for Mike and his campaign. Because as you see on the screen here, here's a graph showing McGrath's individual contributions by state. Now, as you see, California is number 1 with 1,000. New York is number 2. Massachusetts is number 3. And number 4 is Kentucky. Now, Kentucky, being the state she's running in, is lacking in individual contributions. This shows that not a lot of people in Kentucky are supporting her. I mean, they're clearly more people in Kentucky are supporting her than the rest of the states, but to not be number 1 in contributions from your own state that you're running in, that's kind of sad. So if you look here on this one, this is the total contributions for McGrath by state. Now, if you look here, this is even worse. California is still number 1 with 600,000 total contributions. New York 2nd, Massachusetts 3rd, Florida 4th, and 5th, Kentucky. Now, if that doesn't show the lack of support in Kentucky for McGrath, then I don't know what does. She doesn't have the support in Kentucky. No one in Kentucky is supporting her, and that's sad. A candidate that's being thrown around as the only candidate, the best candidate, isn't getting the donations from her own state that she's running in. That's sad. That's depressing. But that's one of the reasons why we got to get as much money to Mike as possible, because we can't reach the voters and we can't get Mike to outperform against McGrath without the money. She has all the money coming, and she has millions coming in every day, every week, and it's sad because Mike is such a great candidate and he doesn't have the money to compete, but he has the policies to compete, and he is our only chance, our best chance to beat Mitch. So if we want to compete with Amy and her supporters, we got to donate our hard-earned money, our time, on getting him the necessary funds to be able to compete with capturing voters and buying ad space and really putting out his campaign to Kentucky. Secondly, we got to donate our time through phone banking and text banking. This is key. I saw recently in McGrath's Twitter, she said that she was calling for people to start phone banking and text banking for her. So if you have millions of people outside of Kentucky phone banking and text banking for McGrath, that's an issue, because those voters may go to McGrath. Those voters may be converted, but we can fight back. What we need from the YangGang is thousands of volunteers. We need a ton of volunteers donating their time to phone bank and text bank for Mike. I will leave in the description a Google Doc link that has the sign up for volunteer work. So if you want to phone bank, text bank, make videos, do social media outreach, you can do that on his link that I will leave in the description. So that's what we got to do. Secondly, we got to donate our time. We got to phone bank and text bank and do everything in our power to reach voters in Kentucky, because if we get the same amount of volunteers and the same amount of energy that we had for Andrew Yang's campaign, we can beat Amy. We can beat Amy and her supporters. We can guarantee a victory for Mike in Kentucky, and we can guarantee the extinction of Mitch McConnell from his seat in Congress. All it takes is us and the YangGang doing whatever we can to volunteer and support Mike during these last final weeks. We need to make a final push through volunteer work to get Mike the necessary voters he needs to be able to outperform and beat Amy in time for the June 23rd primary. It's going to take a lot from us, YangGang. It's going to take a lot from us specifically doing our part, volunteering and helping Mike reach the people he needs to reach. Only then can we truly beat this primary. Third, it's going to take us giving Mike the necessary followers on Twitter and Facebook. Mike is lacking compared to his other candidates in social media support. Mike doesn't have nearly as many followers as Amy or Charles. We need to get Mike as many Twitter followers and as many Facebook page likes as possible, because that boosts his page, that boosts his recognition on Twitter and Facebook. That gives him the necessary boost that allows more people to see his page, to see his posts, and that'll give people the chance to finally meet him either for the first time or finally see a person that they can support. That's the third thing. Now, the fourth thing we got to do, and this is the most important thing, is fight back against the misinformation and the manipulation on behalf of the Amy McGrath supporters. We got to fight back and stop these Amy McGrath supporters from lying about candidates running in this race, lying about who's in the race, and lying about who's the better candidate to beat Mitch. Mike is the best candidate to beat Mitch, and there's more people running in this race, but Amy McGrath supporters are lying to our faces, telling people that no one else is running in the race. They're lying outright to people, telling them that no other candidate in this race exists. But we got to fight back and make sure that Mike has the name recognition on Twitter, Facebook, and any other social media. So that's our goals. Those are the 4 steps that we need to take for this week's objective. Hopefully you guys can help get it done, and we can get Mike a victory that is necessary for Kentucky. Mike is our only shot at beating Mitch, and if we can get Mike the primary win, we could finally take down Mitch McConnell once and for all. But it's going to take all of us, YangGang. It's going to take all of us doing our part in making sure that Mike wins his primary. If Mike wins the primary, we can take Mitch out and restore his seat for the people. We can make UBI a possibility, and we can make UBI work for all Kentuckians. These are our goals. This is our objective. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. This is Dark Knight, signing off.